Hello, my name is Vikram, and this is my AP Statistics project on a relationship between SnapScore and followers. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, spending 1 hour on screen time seems like it lasts a couple minutes. You wake up in the morning, do your daily social media checkup, and somehow it's already lunchtime. This phenomenon is heavily present in the lives of many teenagers in America. As in-person social interaction decreases, the amount of screen time per day increases. The two leading causes for this, Snapchat and Instagram. These days, it's extremely rare that you'll find a teenager who isn't addicted to social media. On these platforms, there is a hierarchy of popularity, where your rank is determined by numerical value on both Snapchat and Instagram. For Snapchat, this value is called the Snap Score. Snap Score is located underneath your profile, and it should be a number. Your Snap Score goes up by 1 every time you send a snap, which can be a photo or a video. For Instagram, this numerical value is called your Instagram follower count. Your Instagram follower count is placed right in the middle of your profile, and every time someone clicks follow on your count, you gain one Instagram follower. In this study, we will evaluate the speculation of a potential relationship between followers on Instagram and SnapScore on Snapchat. And I chose this particular question because during quarantine, I know that me and many teenagers use social media a bunch during the day. Personally, I also noticed that I have a bunch of friends on Snapchat that I haven't talked to since middle school. Another big reason for choosing this topic was that I know that I have the resources to take a survey and gather the data. So here's my research question, blatantly stated out. Does your Snapchat and Snapchat have an influence on the amount of Instagram followers you have? So now I'm going to talk about a little bit about how my study was conducted. And my study was conducted based on a population size of 25 people. I first was going to do 50 people, but then after I realized how hard it was to get 50 people to agree, I brought it down to 25. To do this before, I had to create a random number generator. And so I had to assign values for 0 to 24. A 0 to 4 would be anyone who had greater than 300 but less than or equal to 400 Instagram followers. And this follows all the way down to 24. So 5 to 9 would be 400 and 500 followers, 10 to 14, 500 to 600, 15 to 19, 700 and 800, and 20 to 24, greater than 800 Instagram followers. After this, I took these 0 to 24 values and then I put them into a random number generator and I got a sequence of 25 different values that I could choose to implement into my population. So once I got these values, I had to choose people who fell into this condition. There's two conditions I had to follow before I could DM someone. First, they had to be in the range of the random number generator, and I have to have them on Snapchat so I could see their Snap score. After I got my list of 25 people on Instagram who follow both of those conditions, I inserted that into a spreadsheet. After that, I went on to SnapScore and found their SnapScore by clicking on their profile like I mentioned before. I also DM'd them asking them for the year they joined Instagram and the year they joined Snapchat so that I could find the difference of years between 2020 and the year they joined. Reason for doing this was that I had to create a value, like a way how to where I can assess them both on an equal scale. Instagram followers are going to be generally lower than Snapchat Snap Score. So using this difference of years, I could create a formula that I could use to compare them on the same scale. Another reason was because finding this annual Instagram follower number gives me an average of annual Instagram followers. So how many Instagram followers they had for each year. Because let's say someone in 2020 just starts the Instagram account, it's highly unlikely they'll have 1,000 followers. They'll probably have around 100 or 200 followers. Whereas someone who started their Instagram account in 2015, they've had it building for 5 years. So they could have it at like 2,000 or 3,000 Instagram followers. So by finding this, I would take their Instagram followers and divide it by the number of years they've been using this social media. So I can find their annual Instagram follower number and annual SnapScore number. That same process was also used for Snapchat. If I took their SnapScore and divided it by the amount of years they've been on Snapchat. But with Snapchat, I had to multiply that delta T by 100, because snap scores, like I said, are generally higher. So multiplying it by 100 would bring down the value to where I can assess them both on an equal scale, and they're both in the hundreds range. Because usually before I did the multiplying by the 100, snap score would be in the 10,000s and Instagram followers were in the hundreds. So then I decided to implement the 100 into the denominator to find the annual snap score so they could be in the same range. Afterwards, I created another tab on my Google Sheets and I ordered them from least to greatest. So I put the least amount of Instagram followers at the first tab and then the greatest on the bottom, the Instagram follower number. After that, I did the same thing. I matched the corresponding annual snap score with their Instagram follower, and I had two tables that I could clearly see and visualize. After I saw that, I went down the rows of the Instagram followers and the snap score. I saw that as the Instagram followers increased, there was no really linear form in the annual snap score. You couldn't really tell. It was always curving. If you looked on the graph, you can see it goes up, down, and there's no really like relationship between those two. But I do see sometimes there is some relationship. Another thing I saw that's really cool in my graph is that there's a break in the amount of Snapchat snap score in two places, and I don't know what that is, but I need to figure out why there's a break in there. So going down the two rows, I can see that there's no relationship. I mean, there's maybe sometimes it would be going up, other time it'd be going down. So after that, I think I was able to decide that I can come up with the conclusion for this project. And with this, I decided to conclude that there is little to no relationship between IG followers, Instagram followers, and Snapchat snap score. Another thing that I should have mentioned before during the conducting a survey was a bias. So I know there could be some bias that was involved in the survey, so I took two major measures to reduce this. The first one was that I decided to, if I collect all the data on the same day, then it would be the most accurate. Because let's say I can collect someone's data 2 days after I collected someone else's data, their Instagram follower count has a possibility to be skewed because they could be having a much more than what they did 2 days ago. Same thing for Snapchat. This is why I decided if I got the same all the results and the data on the same day, then it would be the most uniform throughout. Because the average person who has Instagram gains 1% of their followers every day. So if you have 100 followers, you probably gain one follower in a day. And another big thing I took to reduce bias was the average annual follower amount, which I talked about when I talked about how I conducted my survey. And I know another bias that could be possible was that when I asked the people in my survey to give me the year they joined Instagram or Snapchat, they might have not known or they could have lied, but I can't really be sure of that. So next I wanted to go into more of my challenges and any extensions of the project. So the biggest challenge I faced was that I had to get 25 people to agree. And I thought this was going to be actually pretty easy. So that's why I first had 50 people that I was going to ask to join my survey. But then after I realized that finding 50 people to do this is going to be pretty hard, I decided to cut that number in half. So I had to individually text them or DM them or snap them anything to get their permission to use their information. And after that, I took their information and conducted the survey. So that was really like the hardest part. Collecting all the data in one day was not hard. I just needed to reach out to them, and that was getting there because everyone responded at different times. That's why it took so long. Because I could have finished this project a good 2 or 3 days ago, but some people responded in the same hour. Some people responded like 4 days later. So that's why. But some possible extensions of my project was that I could compare the usage of Snapchat and Instagram based on their primary place of use. So what I mean by this is I want to compare if people who use Instagram on their laptop use it a lot more than they use it on their phone. Or on Snapchat, people who use it on their iPad use it a lot less or a lot more than they use it on their phone. And I have two other extensions. The first one is going to be maybe compare the average amount of hours spent either day on social media. So compare average amount of hours for this Instagram and Snapchat for up to like 25 participants. I could also do that. And another extension that I find extremely cool is to do something with TikTok. And I feel like since TikTok is the hottest app of 2020 social media app, that I feel like if I could compare the average amount of hours spent on TikTok, Netflix, YouTube, any other streaming entertainment site, then it would be a good data to gather and come up with some conclusions. And another, so I want to talk about more about my conclusion. Going in, I was almost certain that if you have a higher Instagram followers, you're gonna have higher Snap score. But as you can see, it really depends on when they joined, because I have a friend who joined in 2020, like March or April. He has a bunch of Instagram followers, but he doesn't have any. He doesn't have too much of Snap score, and I know that dividing it by 100 delta t is not the same for everyone, because usually I was using this to bring the big numbers down, but it's bringing down the smaller numbers even more. So it's not really an accurate way, but there's some way of figuring this out. So I think that might be a reason why there's a break in my Snapchat Snap score, because I'm dividing the smaller numbers by a smaller value, by dividing the smaller numbers by such a large value that this is going to cause a break. But yeah, with that, I would like to conclude my presentation, and that there is little to no relationship between Snapchat Snap score and Instagram followers. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed.